This is the Creative Show, episode number 15. We're bringing you the longest running live show from the Content Marketing Institute and the only one that Lorenzo won't tweet. We're recording on Friday, April 1st, so that means you're no April Fool. But for the next 30 minutes, we own the airwaves together. So get thee to thine keyboard, share your comments, and join the live event. My name is Buddy Scalera, and I'm a content strategist building intelligent content solutions, an NFT creator, and a professional comic book writer. I am joined by the Content Marketing Institute's legendary creative director, their lead designer, lead gardener, and the Mad Hatter of creativity, Joe J.K. Kalinowski.
Good afternoon, everybody. Hey, I see our friend Kathy McPhillips is joining us today. Hello. It's great to be back. Welcome and, happy April Fool's Day, buddy. I hope you're not pranking too many people today.
We are not pranking anybody. This is a legit show, Joe. We don't like that tomfoolery or that chicanery. Kathy's here to heckle us, which is perfect. Yeah. So I'm excited, Joe. We have a couple of really interesting topics. Today, we're going to be talking about NFTs as a carry-on from last episode and the secret mystery of the Elbon Road spooky story. So what do you say we get started?
Let's do it, man.
All right. So it almost feels like And that concludes our episode today, Joe.
You caught me dancing to our theme music.
Yeah, and after 15 episodes, you'd think I know how the show ran, but apparently I don't. So as I was saying, we covered NFTs last episode. It was actually something that got a surprisingly high number of comments. People seem very interested in it as a creative show. And speaking with marketeers, people, it really seemed to touch a nerve, didn't it?
It did. It really did. I mean, it was one of our most active shows, to say the least. Post production. I mean, you and I have gone back and forth with many marketers, many creatives, just about like our discussion, and they wanted to discuss NFTs more as we're all figuring these out together. And Buddy, one of the reasons that I wanted to bring this topic back up today is because you have some special news about your series of NFTs that you dropped.
That's right, Joe. I take a victory lap right now, and when I tell you that I sold my first NFT not long after the show.
Congratulations, man! That's so great.
Thank you. So, Mandy Subler, can you pull up the NFT that I sold? There you go. Thank you. This is a spooky background photo. It's just a long exposure, essentially. And somebody went and bought this for whatever ETH it was worth. It sold for $93, and now somebody has a spooky photo that I shot in their collection.
That is incredible, Buddy. Can I ask where that photo was taken?
That's my backyard.
Are you serious?
Yeah. You can, as long as you crop things right and turn the camera just so you don't see fences and swing sets.
Oh, I love it. It is such an incredible picture. Now, do you have a series of NFTs, or did you just drop one or two, or how are you doing like a series of photos?
Thanks for asking. It's part of the Hell series of long exposure photos where I bring up the red tones in all the channels. That was just a plain old light behind the woods behind my house. And then you just keep increasing and then playing with the colors and the lights. I spent a lot of time in Photoshop doing layers to get those streams of light just right.
Yeah.
And, if you just see the photo initially, it's just not that interesting. But when you spend some time with it, and then I've created a whole bunch of these showing different angles and perspectives from the Hell series. I really like taking photos with long exposures.
It's so cool. I mean, what I do love about it too is the fact that it's uniquely yours. Not just a photo that you took in the backyard, but, you put some creativity behind it in the sense of, building your layers and adding color and giving it your view of hell. So, welcome to hell, which happens to be in the backyard in New Jersey.
And it's fun because I take a lot of photos, Joe, for photo's sake, for art's sake,
Sure.
but
Yep.
most people never see them. And the NFTs have given me an opportunity to start to share these out more. I found a whole community on Twitter. Twitter seems to be the dominant platform.
Right.
There was a long time where is in Discord, but it seems to have migrated over. And just sharing photography that you made for art's sake feels really good. There's no business plan behind it. If people want to buy it, great. If not, I'm really excited to share my photos.
Well, it's really cool. So, first thing, I do recall one of the first times that you and I really hung out. We were in San Francisco together, and I bumped into you, and you just took the day after our event and just took a camera out. You were just
Yeah.
out walking around, just taking rando photos around San Francisco, which I found really cool. But it's interesting you bring that up about creating communities and stuff like that, because so many people in the NFT communities, like a lot of this stuff did start around Discord.
Yeah.
And it's still unbelievably prevalent, and that's probably and it is the main place where people creating and sharing NFTs kind of hang out and go back and forth and talk. And if you're an old fogey like me, still trying to wrap my head around Discord every now and again, it's nice to see that these communities are starting to be built in other areas such as Twitter. I haven't seen much of it on Facebook, but then, like I said, old fogies, there's not a lot of people bouncing over to Facebook to talk about NFTs and stuff like that. There's not a lot of successful. I mean, there are some successful communities, don't get me wrong, but I see a lot of the NFT discussion moving over even into LinkedIn, which is very interesting.
And it's moving into Instagram. And recently, Meta announced that Instagram will have some sort of NFT program by the summer.
Yeah.
Which is good. It'll be a nice way for photographers to share their work. I think the key thing that is led to is for Comic Book School, which if you go to comicbookschool.com, I've started an educational program, and just last night, launched the landing page. I'm going to be doing a certification program for comic book creators who want to learn about what it means to utilize NFTs. And it's really just it's down in the weeds, like how do you set up a wallet, how do you launch your first one, what platforms, and
Right.
all those different things. And then at the end, they'll get a certificate issued by comicbookschool.com. And then, Amanda, if you want to show that other NFT, the token, there you go. This was designed by the community, by Vince V from Moving Comics. And what he did for me was created my first token. Now, each new token, Joe, will be created by the community in their own art style. So this one is from Vince V's style. As long as he utilizes the Comic Book School logo properly, it goes on the token. And this will be the first token that we will award to people who complete the Comic Book School certification. Interesting to note, and I picked this up from Polizzi, Joe Polizzi, is I'm not going to sell these. They will only be from me to somebody else. They can have a secondary market. I'm not looking for the secondary market. And I found a way to mint and distribute these for free. And part of the coursework will be explaining how you mint these for free, distribute them, and then when you complete the course, you'll have a wallet, and your first NFT will be the Comic Book School token.
Oh, that is an incredible idea, buddy, because not only are you utilizing the NFT as a reward or as a payment, or a reward for completing the course. I love how you're implementing the artists that are part of your community in creating these NFTs, which makes it even more special. So it's almost twofold. It gets you people to join your community to learn, but then also to submit to create an NFT. It's such a great idea. I mean, really,
I really wanted to highlight that we're a community, and that we have community people have a different vision. And yes, you have to use the Comic Book School logo the right way, but then what we will show is so many different ways that you can interpret using your own vision, your own art to make a new token. And we just think it's exciting for people to be part of something, to learn, and then eventually the tokens in the future will have utility. But these first tokens, the utility is learning how to use NFTs and how to create them yourselves as creators.
Yeah, it's really cool. And the biggest word that you're saying right there is community. You already have, we all know that Comic Book School does have a wonderful community already created that you're asking people to join into. So, because so many NFTs, the last thing I'd like to say about this is there's so many NFT creators out there right now that are doing some really cool work, but they're just kind of getting lost in OpenSea where
Yeah,
NFTs are because they don't have a community created. They don't have anybody promoting
that's right.
their work or anybody interested in their work. What you're doing is very unique. You're bringing NFTs to a community that you've already created, and I think that is unbelievably successful. And I think that's what brands need to pay attention to when they're creating NFTs. Instead of just dropping an NFT without really having any plan behind it, they're just doing it because, better than the Joneses, because somebody else, maybe one of their competitors, is doing it. Really think about what kind of value you're going to put behind that, so your community or your customers would really want to get involved and actively get one of these for their wallet.
So wait, there is community and there's utility. I want to tell you something. I know we have to jump on to the next topic, but I do want to
Yeah.
tell you one of the most accessed features on comicbookschool.com is a list that I've been maintaining for about 7 years now of publisher submission guidelines for comic book publishers. You'd think there was only a handful, but there's literally hundreds of publishers. And then I have a running list that links to their submission guideline page, a little bit of information about them, what titles they publish. That is one of the most important cornerstone pieces of content to the Comic Book School website. Now, with the NFT program, I started last year and have been logging all of the different comic book related NFT projects and professionals, creating this list that I will maintain, and that will probably be one of the main draws to the website of what comic book creators are making. And I'm just going to maintain this exhaustive list and constantly update it. And that will keep my website high on SEO for people looking for that information.
Oh, that's incredible. I mean, what more can you ask for? I mean, this is really, you're taking it to the next level when you are setting an example for brands and, other communities of how to successfully run an NFT campaign.
Well, Joe, and like we talk about this a lot in our show, which is what we do creatively in our own lives informs what we do professionally in the office. That is, it's safe for me to experiment with this. If it doesn't go the way I want it to go, it's only me failing, and I do fail. But then I take that learning and then I bring it to the office, and I think that's a really important aspect of this, that we should all be experimenting creatively on our own and have an outlet for that.
Yeah.
And that takes me to creativity in your own home, which I believe you have a weird story about where you live on Elbon Road. Interestingly enough, you don't live on Elbon Road. Joe, what is the story behind Elbon Road?
Okay. Well, it started. Let's take a very long story short.
All right.
For about a year, about a year ago, I received a random text on my cell phone, and it said, "Hey, Carol, are you interested in selling your property on Elbon Road?" Well, obviously, my name is not Carol, and I don't own property on Elbon Road, which is like on the other side of the opposite side of Cleveland, where I live in Ohio. So I replied, "Not my name's not Carol. I don't own property on Elbon Road," but apparently this spam texter they just keep they don't read my text, so they just kept texting me. And no matter how many times I type stop, I'm not Carol, I don't. So finally, buddy, I couldn't take it anymore, and I let my creativity and a little bit of snark kick in.
A little bit.
And it's so funny that we were talking about hell in your backyard, because I created this Elbon Road hellhole, as I call it. This is my first text to the people that were texting me. It says, I made an oath to the diocese and local religious groups that I would never sell that property. The paranormal demonic activity is astronomical, and I couldn't possibly make any unsuspecting buyer experience the torment. 995 Elbon Road is assumed to be one of the legendary 7 gates of hell, and it shall remain sealed.
Now, Joe, just real quick, like you could have easily added this to spam and stopped it immediately. You didn't even have to type stop. You could have just gone, block number. What led you to take this time to do this?
Buddy, we as creatives, if you can take it to the next level every now and again and troll a spammer, how great is that, right? Everybody wants to get back at the spammer or the email people that are like flooding our emails, our phones, and whatever. So I figured, you know what? I'm just going to have a little bit of fun with this and do a little practice in creative writing. So what I ended up doing was creating a series of texts. So every time that these people text me, you can see they're very small, but you can see compared to the first text that I gave them to one of these are some of the more recent ones, how long they're actually getting. They're getting, a couple paragraph length so basically the gist of the story is I tell them that there is a hole in the basement of the Elbon Road property, of which is one of the 7 gates of hell. And I have taken an oath to the Diocese of Cleveland and all religious groups to be the sole person to guard humans and our earthly plane against every evil, demonic creature or satanic horde that tries to come up out of the hole. So I've gone as far as been gifted the fiery sword of the Archangel Michael. I have fought off demons to the sound of Tom Jones music because I found a hi-fi record player in the basement. And as I was swinging my sword and my hips to the words or to the beat of It's Not Unusual, I have dressed up like St. Nicholas at Christmas time and screamed, Santa Claus is coming to town as I jumped into the hellhole. And the crazy thing is, we talk about this, me and my friends and the people that I share it with, and we're always like joking around about it. And then all of a sudden, we have a local business magazine, Cranes Cleveland, that reached out to me. They had heard that I was doing this, and they were doing a feature on people receiving spam text and phone calls trying to get their property sold, or like being solicited to sell your property to one of those like We Buy Houses kind of places. So one of the editors at Crane's Business reached out to me and featured me in one of their stories about all of this. And that was the homepage of Crane's Business magazine, me standing in my actual living room in Lakewood, Ohio, not Elbon Road. And they did a whole and I had such a wonderful time talking about it with their editor, and like it actually was printed. Thank you, Amanda, for sending me the printed version. There's another photo of me in the front of my house talking about the Elbon Road hellhole. But I had so much fun. I obviously have so much fun doing this because I have an audience now. Because every time the folks text me, I write the Elbon Road narrative and then I immediately post it to all my socials because everybody's like, we need the next chapter of Elbon Road. What's happening at the hellhole? So
just when you didn't think it could get weirder, Joe shows up in a magazine. Well, they even put it in print. I mean, that's incredible.
It's in print, so it really happened.
Well, I have to say that is one of the most creative things I've heard in a long time, and I'm glad that you shared it with the audience, and hopefully everyone else takes the time to entertain spammers as well.
Well, I figured, you know what? It seemed to be a recurring theme today: hell and snarky fun, right? So it's perfect for April Fools. Am I not? Yeah, I couldn't think of a better topic, right?
It is perfect. And speaking of perfect, it is the perfect time for our favorite part of the show. Mandy, show the graphic. It's What's in the Box. I think I should consider myself pretty lucky that she's not going to San Diego because I'm pretty sure I'm in trouble already.
Yeah, you're gonna calling our producer Mandy is like, you know, well, we're just gonna let that go right now.
We're gonna let that go. Hopefully, Lorenzo tweets us though. At a certain point, we will get tweeted, but
Yeah.
probably not this episode.
So what I'm gonna do is, we had talked about this earlier, buddy. I love, as you well know, you too. We are nuts over action figures. You know, that seemed to be one of the first places that I learned creativity and creative thought is making action figures and creating a storyline and making them do whatever you wanted to do, and then watch the cartoons and reenact everything. So, some of the first action figures that I owned was obviously Star Wars figures, which are run of the mill, produced by Kenner Company in 78 through 85. Um, they were wonderful action figures, and they made like 100 and some of them, I believe. But what was so unique, or what was a little bit limiting about, they were the first 3 3/4 inch action figures. But what was cool about them is they came with the weapons and stuff. But what they didn't have is they were very limited in their mobility. So you had stiff legs, and then their heads might move. Then in 1982, which we have talked about, which is one of my absolute favorite content marketing examples, along comes G.I. Joe. And the G.I. Joe figures, same size, but guess what? Their knees bent, their heads moved, their arms moved. They were more detailed. They had cool weapons. They had a wonderful, wonderful cartoon and comic book that kind of ran alongside them, to kind of promote. It was content marketing for children, and it was wonderful to experience that as a kid. So here we are, 30 odd years later, and I'm walking through the local toy store, and I look on the shelf, and there is a new round of GI Joe action figures out. Now, the GI Joe brand never really was retired. They would every now and again, they basically went out of fashion in like the early 90s, the 3 3/4 inch figures. They were kind of losing steam. So Hasbro kind of shelved them, and every now and again they would bring it back as kind of like maybe a retro brand or something like that. But then they changed the sizes of them, made big dolls, made movies, and did whatever, but it just never really took off again. So I'm walking through the toy aisle, as I often do, and I look up and I notice vintage GI Joe packaging, but the artwork is different. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. But then if you look closer, I don't know if you can see on my crappy camera here, but the GI Joe action figure that's contained in this package looks a hell of a lot like a Star Wars figure. See that? There's no articulation.
Yeah.
They're stiff legs, stiff arms, very basic weapon. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, now wait a minute. The whole reason G.I. Joe was successful is because they weren't Star Wars figures. But then here we are, roughly 37 years later, almost 40 years later, and they go back to being what they never wanted to be. So, yeah.
I agree. I was thinking the same thing. Amanda said he's put way too much thought into this in our private chat. Joe, I'm laughing because of how much knowledge you have. Did you pay attention this much in school? Could you quote like dates in history?
Oh, yeah, buddy. My wife calls me a wellspring of useless information.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell us dates, articulation. I mean, this is just. I'm listening to you like there's no notes. You just know this stuff.
Yeah. So, but what I found. Thank you. But what I found so unique about this whole scenario is how someone can take an idea, expand on. So let's say, the 3 3/4 inch Star Wars figures. Hasbro said, you know what, we're going to resurrect an old 60s brand in G.I. Joe and come up with an articulated action figure that's going to be way cooler than the Star Wars figure. And they did. And they basically put Kenner and Star Wars out of business, right? Fast forward 40 years later, Kenner and Hasbro are now the same company. They're owned by the same parent company. And they go, you know what? We're going to go ahead and repackage those G.I. Joe figures, but we're going to make them look like Star Wars because the guys that were playing with the Star Wars and G.I. Joe back in 1982 will buy the hell out of these.
They got the
Exactly.
money.
And you know what? This, like, we were laughing.
You bought it, right? You bought it.
Yeah, this is a tax write-off because I
Yeah.
used it for the show. But honestly, $20. I paid $2.97 or $1.97 for a G.I. Joe figure years ago.
And Joe, I just went out and bought this not too long ago for about the same amount of money.
Yeah.
Essentially, they just repackaged the same exact Migos from the Planet of the Apes, and I just added to the plan. So I had no problem taking money out of my pocket to buy this because I needed it for my office.
Exactly, for your office. Well, as you can see, I need a lot of stuff for my office. This is
You
how I
need a lot of stuff.
for my office. But what I found really interesting, buddy, is the fact that I was just thinking of this, like, compared to, you know, maybe a marketing idea or if a creative idea. You know, sometimes it's unique. You take an idea that might be a little worn out and you dust it off and you add a little something cool to it, like Hasbro did with G.I. Joe back in the early 80s, and it becomes a brick piece of content for you, or a brick piece of creativity, something that's always there that you can lean on and you know that it's there, but then it becomes a little old and a little stale. So what do? You reinvent the wheel again, going back to your original idea and the original roots. So in this case, the original roots for G.I. Joe was the Star Wars figures. So what did they do? They Kenner realized that the audience is still there. You and I, ages, whatever, let's just say middle-aged, and with a little bit of coin in their pocket. So here we are, 40 years later, buying action figures that they never made, but they took two ideas that we loved back when we were kids, melded them together, and now I have to have every one of them.
Well, you have to give them something to buy.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
And one of the things I learned from setting up at comic book conventions is I need something new at my table every year, and I need something at a low price, a medium price, and a high price. And I need new items every year to sell. And that is proof because people will come back, they'll look at the table and go, what do you have new this year?
Yeah.
And I think that, you prove, you put out something new, I will buy it.
Yes,
You
exactly.
put out something Planet of the Apes, I will buy it. Right? There's no limit for us, but there is a limit to our time, Joe.
There is.
And this is where we come to the conclusion. Where can they find more about you personally and interact with you?
Well, obviously, as stated, I am hanging around the halls of the Content Marketing Institute, and you can find me on Twitter and LinkedIn at JK Kalinowski. We will be, oh my gosh, it's coming up, buddy. We got, we have, in about a month, we have Content Tech out in San Diego, which is going to be a blast. Yep. You and I get to do a little creative show in sunny California, so we'd love folks to come out and join us there. So visit content.tech to check out and register. It would be awesome to have you out there, and love to see you in person.
Yeah, Joe, I think we'll be at a Content Tech together out in San Diego. They can find me in all places at Buddy Scalera or at Comic Book School, and they can subscribe to this show on YouTube and find us there at any given time. Find us on all the social channels. So, Joe, thanks so much for joining us. We managed to do this show without any ridiculousness in terms of April Fools. Happy to see you. And I will see all of you guys in a couple of weeks for the next episode. And everybody, stay creative.
Take care.